I'm going to show you how easy it is to capture great LEGO photography with just an $8 LEGO set, all while showcasing how to find a good location, the gear I use, and also the editing process. So let's get straight into it. So before you even start, you want to choose a LEGO set or a bunch of figures that are super iconic. I mean, this always helps for first time LEGO photography because once you photograph it, people can immediately recognize who those people are and it immediately creates a story for them. So of course, this little set is perfect because it has got some of the most iconic, I guess, gaming characters in the world. You've got Steve, who is incredibly iconic. You've got a Minecraft creeper as well as a little fox. And I picked this set up for literally 17 New Zealand dollars, so it barely put a dent in my budget at all. So now we've got the characters, now we got to look for some inspiration if you don't already have it. Now, you can easily access Pinterest. Now, Pinterest is very accessible, it's free, you can just look through a lot of different photographs and get some really cool, inspiring photos. I basically created this little mood board to figure out what I could do with these characters. I mean, it's nice and easy, I've only got 3 characters to work with, and I can set them up anywhere. So these photos are really great, they have a nice range, and it's got me thinking of some really cool ideas. And then eventually I'll put them into a Google Doc and just put all the ideas that I really want to look at capturing. Because having a plan is really great. If you have some composition ideas in mind, then putting it onto a Google Doc is super helpful because you can check, have I taken this photograph, have I taken this photograph? And the best part is you can come up with ideas as you go as well. Next, one of the most important things is location. Now, when I'm scouting for a location, because I've done so much photography and videography around my city here in Auckland, I already know a whole bunch of really cool spots. But the main thing you want to try and do is identify where these figures would be if they were a real life character. It makes it easy for Minecraft because you can literally set it anywhere in the world and it makes sense. The only part I guess it wouldn't make sense is if it's in the city, but I guess any natural environments would be perfect for this figure, which is why I settled for Point View Reserve. It's just a park that is literally 10 minutes away from where I live. I know I can go to a small section of this area and just get some really cool photos. And I know it'll provide a lot of unique and interesting textures as well, so I can then get a variety of photographs. Now, when it comes to gear, I usually use my Canon R8 paired with a 28-70 f2.8. Now, that sounds really fancy. You do not need fancy equipment to do LEGO photography. This DSLR camera was able to take all these photographs here, and this only set me back 350 New Zealand dollars. As long as you can use a camera that, takes good photographs and can focus, then that's all you need. LEGO photography, you can use the bare bones equipment and still get some really cool photographs. Now, once I get to a location, I'll usually look around and try and spot unique textures. So walking through this first part of the reserve, there was a lot of long grass and things like that. I was just trying to look for, mossy areas. And then I came across this, little section, and I don't know what kind of plant this is, but it looked really nice. It had nice green textures, and it also just created for a really nice pattern that I could set the figures up. Now, when it comes to balancing, I'll usually try and push these figures into the ground if I can. That's, usually the best way to try and, balance them because it can be quite difficult. Then next, I'll figure out my settings. Now, because I'm shooting in a shady spot, I have to kind of, compensate a little bit. I know the background's going to be kind of blown out, but I really want to punch into this area just to showcase, the textures in this area rather than what's behind. And now it's just a game of finding a good composition. So I'll pull focus and then I'll take a photograph and see what it looks like. And it's really important, if you can, to zoom in on your actual image to see if your character is in focus. I do this all the time when I capture a good photograph, is I zoom in digitally to make sure it's in focus, because the worst thing is getting home and realizing, you're out of focus. Also, another thing is to help get a really sharp photo is to have your shutter speed above maybe 500, because when you're photographing while crouching, you don't realize it, but your body's kind of shaking a bit. So if you don't have image stabilization, you can kind of get a shaky shot if your shutter speed is too slow. So yeah, I wasn't entirely happy with the photographs I got here, but it was, it was a start. You got to warm up sometimes. So next I moved on to the side of this huge water tank area. I know that there would be some really nice unique textures through here. So it's just again, looking along the ground and seeing what's unique about this place to find some good spots to photograph. And again, making sure to check my list of what photographs I want to take. I was able to find this really nice mossy area that I thought could be perfect for a figure. So I just got the little fox out and started getting some nice photographs of him as well. And again, zooming in to make sure that I'm getting him in focus. And again, playing with the rule of thirds, just setting the character off to the right to kind of, you know, get some variety within my compositions. So yeah, I think I got some cool photos there, and then I kind of moved further down to see what else I could kind of photograph. And then to add variety, I used the chest with the diamonds, and I actually went back to the mossy location again and just had this image of it like spilling out, which I thought looked kind of cool, you know, just as like almost like a product shot of Lego diamonds. And if you have, you know, special items within your Lego set, it's cool to highlight them in interesting ways like this. I also did it with the diamond sword, and this time like setting it into the ground. That's another really cool thing you can do, is just kind of having the Lego actually interact with the environment. So having the sword go through the ground is a really cool way of just like taking photographs with Lego. And then this is just something I've thought of on the go, is just having, you know, Steve with his arms behind his back, just kind of like relaxing on the comfy moss here. Nothing too special about it. I was just kind of using the light to my advantage and, you know, getting some cool photographs there. I then found these plants again, but in a new spot, and I thought it'd be interesting to have Steve and the fox kind of having their own adventure together. Once I got them balanced, I think I was able to get some really, really cool shots. Now, it's really important when you're photographing Lego is to experiment in your location. It can be kind of easy to just like set them up, take a few photos and think, you know, that's good. I've been guilty of that so many times and been a bit lazy, but it's really important to see what else you can do in this environment. Different positioning, different compositions, because you can find yourself getting better photographs, which I did, and I love this composition. And I also noticed there was a really nice tree in the background, and I made sure to get that in frame as well, just to create a little bit of diversity in the background. So by this point I was stoked, and now it's just time to have fun, just walk around and see what other textures I can find. Now this is where it's important to kind of have like a keen eye for things. I noticed this tree stem had kind of like a hump, and it created for almost like a cave. So I was like, perfect, put Steve and the fox in there and it's gonna look mint. Took a bit of balancing and finding the right composition, but I was pretty happy with these photographs. My only complaint is there was no like nice lush greens in the background. It was just this big water tank thing. Made the image a little bit more moodier than I wanted. I got some more photographs on the way back. These were just kind of, you know, story photographs, you know, getting the creeper and, you know, Steve kind of interacting. I think these images are quite cool. I just found like a tree stump that was, you know, poking out and looking over the landscape. That was a photograph I really wanted to get. And again, that balancing game has to be strong, because this was super difficult to get to balance. And then this was probably my favorite shot of the entire shoot. I spotted that there was this tree and there was like a really nice little bit of light, you know, on top of it. It had like nice dark greens in the background. Getting that nice low angle, and it almost like kind of sparks, you know, there being curiosity with this little guy, in the sense that like, you know, you're looking from his perspective and he's kind of like looking out. And the great thing about Lego photography is you would, you know, kind of expect this to be in a forest. This was literally a foot away from the footpath that everybody uses at this, you know, park. And I was able to get a really nice photograph with this. The thing I love about Lego photography so much is that you can place these guys anywhere and kind of make someone believe that it's in some like luxurious location, you know? So when it comes to the edit, I usually use Lightroom. It's just something I've used for a long time. Usually I'll use one of my presets here that I've kind of curated over the years. You know, some of these work and then some of these don't, as you can see. I'll usually take a preset and then just kind of build off that. But for the sake of this, I'm gonna start completely from scratch. First thing I do is cropping. I think I really already like the look of this, you know, composition. So I just, honestly, it doesn't need a crop. In this case, it doesn't need a crop. Maybe a slight adjustment to make it look, you know, a little bit more straight. I'll, you know, play with the exposure, add a little bit of contrast. Highlights could come down a little bit. And then maybe darken the shadows a bit. Whites don't look too bad. And then as far as the temperature goes, we can kind of see, you know, we could add a little bit of yellow, not too much. Now the primary color here is obvious, it's, you know, green. So we can play around with the greens and add a little bit of saturation there, or change them a little bit. And then we place, okay, so we've got, you know, different variations of greens. We've got these kind of beige greens that we can, you know, kind of play around with. That doesn't look too bad. And then we look at this green, which is, you know, in the foreground, which we can add. We can add a little bit of clarity. And then because we've got, you know, the orange fox, which unfortunately is a little bit out of focus, we're gonna kind of take him and make him a little bit more orange, just to kind of separate him. And then we're gonna go to the blues, So that's his original color. Just add a little bit of saturation to kind of like break him apart from the background. And yeah, it's just, you know, a slight color change to what we were doing before. Not too bad with these photographs. So yeah, hopefully that was a helpful guide to Lego photography. It just goes to show that you can get some great photographs with a pretty decent location, a cheap Lego set, and a decent camera, I guess. I'm definitely going to try do a video where I'm showcasing how to take Lego photography with a phone. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know, because I'll definitely plan something really cool for that. All these photographs are going to be up on my Instagram, so feel free to check that out. And yeah, if you have any further questions, let me know down in the comments below, as I'll be answering all the comments. Next shoot is going to be really cool. We're going to be going to the forest for a whole cinematic piece. Going to be shooting some Ninjago sets, which is going to be really cool. Like and share this video around, do all that great stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and yeah, goodbye.